Okay. All right. Okay, I am terrified because I am not seeing any indication that my microphone is actually working. Can y'all hear me? How's the sound? It's good? You can hear? It is? Okay, cool. Okay, phew. Okay, I was like paranoid after what happened last time. So I'm glad that everybody can hear. All right. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Andrea, or Drea for short. Today is Saturday, January 30th, 2021, and this is episode 10 of the DREA'S podcast. If you're joining me live here on YouTube, thank you so much for coming. And if you're watching the replay a little bit later, thank you for watching and thank you for your time. So as always, we have a lot to talk about, especially this time because it has been a while since we've done a podcast. Episode 9 of the podcast was on December 5th. And so that's like 6 or 7 weeks, I think. So we have a lot of projects to go through. So this is probably going to be a long one, but I'm going to try to be as efficient as possible. So yeah, just a quick reminder here at the beginning, if you haven't already, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. And as a reminder, I can't really see who all is joining chat. So if you would like to make your presence known, definitely be sure to say hi in the chat so that we can talk. Yay, you look amazing. The sound is working and I actually made it. Thank you so much, Christina. I'm so glad that you're here. And Kelsey's here too. So I'm really happy that y'all are here. Thank you so much for coming. And another thing is my Wi-Fi is acting up. I know this to be true. I just did like a Wi-Fi speed test. And so that definitely does like pose some issues for like streaming and quality, especially if you're watching this later, you might kind of see some blurriness and the sound might be a little distorted. So I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for that in advance, but it looks like we're doing okay so far. I'll definitely keep an eye because I can like see myself on my laptop. I'll definitely keep an eye out to make sure that things are still going well. So yeah, now that we've got all of that out of the way, I am going to go ahead and get into the actual podcast part. So I have 3 finished objects to talk about, technically 4, and some of them were finished like at the tail end of 2020, and one of them was finished this year as well. So the first one that is finished, okay, I have to flip it around because it's a mirror image. This is the Africa Map pot holder by Puka Puka. The yarn that I used, the cream is Lion brand Comfy Cotton, and the colorway is called Whipped Cream. And what? Okay, which way is correct? Because the way I see it, this has it correct. But my fiance just told me to flip it this way. So I'm not sure, like 1 or 2. I'm not sure what y'all are seeing. I'm just going based off what I'm seeing. Wi-Fi being a jerk sucks, but everything looks good so far. Okay, good. Let's hope that that holds up. Yeah, we see the opposite of what you do. YouTube is weird. Okay, so I had it correct the first time. I'm just going to try not to let this weird me out so far. So this is what Africa looks like to y'all. To me, it's opposite. So yeah, Africa Map pot holder, designer is Puka Puka. The cream colored yarn is Lion brand Comfy Cotton. And the gray is Knit Picks or We Crochet Comfy Worsted in Whisker. So these are both cotton blend yarns. Neither of them are 100% cotton. So the Comfy Cotton, I believe, is 50% cotton, 50% polyester. And the Comfy Worsted is 75% cotton, 25% acrylic. So they're definitely not suitable for actual like heat purposes, in my opinion. So I'm not going to be using this as a pot holder. I think I'm going to use it as a washcloth. But yeah, this is just a pretty simple tapestry crochet pattern. I really enjoyed it. And Puka Puka's whole thing is kind of like tapestry crochet designs that are like based on cartography, so maps. And so when I saw the Africa one, I knew that I needed it. So this was really fun. It worked up pretty quickly, very easy to follow. And so I'm a huge fan of this. And this was kind of something that I made because, you know, I have like a lot of like large projects. You know, I work on a lot of shawls and blankets and garments. And so those are large projects that take a while to complete. And so I kind of just needed something small in between to break it up. And so I was like going through all of my patterns that I'd already bought, and I came across this one and I was like, okay, this seems like a good one to do. So yeah, this is the Africa pot holder. Lots of fun. And it was definitely kind of like a stash busting project for me too, because I had no idea what I was going to do with these yarns otherwise. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. Okay, next project that I've completed is what I'm actually wearing right now. Move my hair out of the way. This is the Party Punch shawl by TL Yarn Crafts, and the yarn that I used is Sorella's sock yarn in the colorway Maui. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it off so that I can show y'all the shape. This is a boomerang shawl. So I'm gonna lean back a little bit. You can kind of tell that it has like that little curve to it that makes it a boomerang shawl. And this is a 1 skein shawl project. So I only used 1 skein of that sock yarn. Hey, your podcast brings luck. My yarn just arrived. Yay! Yay. I always get so excited when my yarn comes in the mail. So I'm glad that this is good timing. So yay, congratulations on your yarn coming. So yeah, this is a Tunisian crochet shawl, and it's kind of like meshy. So if I get a little closer, you can kind of see that it's very open, and it really opened up after I blocked it as well. Because before I blocked it, you couldn't really see the mesh that much. Like you could tell that it was open, but it wasn't quite this open. So I did make a note of the measurements. So the pre-blocked measurements for the shawl, the depth was about 17 inches and the wingspan was 41 inches. That color looks beautiful. It reflects light on your skin really beautifully to give you an extra glow, in my opinion. Oh, thank you so much. You're too kind. You're too kind. Yeah, I really do like this color. I don't know how well y'all can see it, but it's kind of like a speckled yarn. So the base is kind of like a warm cream color, and then it's speckled with like reds and oranges and some dark grays. I see a little bit of like it's not as prominent as some of the other ones, but there is like a little bit of like a bluish green in here. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's kind of hard to see speckles with a mesh pattern like this, but yeah, I really loved how this yarn worked up, and I know it looks beautiful knit too. I speak truths. Aw, you're so sweet. Oh my goodness. So yeah, pre-blocked measurements, the depth was 17 inches, the wingspan was 41 inches. After I blocked it, the depth is now 20.5 inches, and the wingspan is 50 inches. You can kind of see I'm really having to stretch my arms out. So it's a pretty decently sized shawl. And if you've been around for a while, you know that I kind of have like a preference for fingering weight shawls or like sock weight shawls because, you know, I live in a warmer climate and I don't really have much use for accessories and garments that are very like bulky and warm because that's not that's not really something that I need. So this was designed to kind of be a summer shawl, and for me that means that I can wear it year round. So I guess you could technically wear it kind of like a traditional shawl with like that over the shoulder action going on, but that's probably not what I'm gonna do for this one, just because I really like for my shawls to have a little bit more coverage on the arm. And as you can see, just like due to the shape of the shawl, you don't really have that. You kind of do on this side since it's a little wider, but not so much on this side since this is like the narrower end of the boomerang. And so the way that I'm going to wear it is how I had it on originally. as like a kind of triangle shawl, like how you would wear that. So yeah, like that. It's cozy enough for me. This probably wouldn't work if you lived in somewhere that gets cold, but for me, it works perfectly and I really like it and I plan on wearing it a lot. I need to check out some Sorella. Yes, yes, I really like Sorella yarn. So if you're not aware, they have collections every 6 to 8 weeks. So this yarn, for example, was from the Maui collection. Not the Maui collection, from the Moana collection, which is why it's called Maui. And they're just really good at their craft. They're very creative with their colorways. And what also makes their collections very unique is that they have other like extras to go along with them to kind of really give a full sensory experience. So the first extra that they added is tea. And as y'all know, I love tea. So some months I'll go ahead and get tea from them, even if I'm not buying the yarn. And they also have wool wash. I think they started doing like a hand cream, and the scents of like the wool wash and the hand cream and like the flavors of the tea correspond to the collection theme. So it's really genius. It's really unique. And something else new that they've added is they actually have like some yarn in stock that they restock every week. So right now they're on like their winter collection restock, and it's all tono yarn, so none of like the variegated or speckled stuff that you'll see in the collections, but definitely worth checking out. They are very good at what they do. So yeah, definitely should check them out. I have some yarn on the way from them. They had a collection that was released on January 1st, and it's like a 6 to 8 week turnaround. So they said it's going to be shipping in like mid-February. So I'm really excited about that. All right. So then the next finished object I have to show you is my Selene cardigan by Leroo Crochet. Let me get it at a good angle where I can actually show it to you. So this is the Selene cardigan. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it on. I'm not going to keep it on for long because it is very, very warm and cozy, which I love. So the yarn that I used for this is Knit Picks or We Crochet Swish DK. It's 100% superwash merino. And so this lighter gray is called Dove Heather. And then this medium gray, kind of like here, is called Marble Heather. And then the darkest gray is called Cobblestone Heather. So yeah, this was a pattern test. I think the testing period wrapped up this past week, and so I'm sure the pattern is going to be released soon. And one of the options was to do a 3-color fade, and so that's what I chose to do. And this cardigan has pockets, y'all. There are pockets, and they're pretty decent size. So really happy with how this turned out. One thing is I got kind of stuck on the sleeves for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I had to like start over on the sleeves like 6 or 7 times. I was so frustrated. I was having issues with the fade. I was having issue with gauge. Like there were just so many obstacles to getting these sleeves done. So it took me like a month to do the sleeves, literally. So not so happy about that, but obviously we got through it and the sleeves look great. And like when I stand up, the fade on the sleeves is a little bit different than the fade on the body of the cardigan. But when I stand up, it lines up really well. Like you can kind of tell here how like this stark stripe is lining up here and this one's kind of lining up here. So when I stand up, the fade works out perfectly. And then something else on this cardigan that was also a little bit of a struggle is that it stretched out a lot after I blocked it. And that was really frustrating because I felt like I had done my due diligence. So a kind of like best practice for if you're making a garment and you're using a fiber that has a tendency to kind of stretch out when you're blocking it, is to actually block your gauge swatch so that you can see what the final like form of the fabric is going to be. So I did that, and I kept an eye on my gauge throughout the process of making the cardigan, and it's still stretched out quite a bit. So I think the cardigan is supposed to be, like my size is supposed to be about like 27 or 28 inches long. Mine is 34 inches long. So it's definitely quite long. I think it comes down to like about my knees, whereas it's like, I think it's designed to kind of come down like mid-thigh. So it's definitely a little longer than it's supposed to be, but I like long cardigans anyway. So it's not a huge deal. But something that did help, since this is 100% superwash merino wool, I don't know how well this would work with fibers, but since this was superwash merino, I actually put it in the dryer, which was horrifying. My friends really had to like talk me into putting it into the dryer. But once I did, it did kind of like shrink up a little bit, which was good. It wasn't quite as long as it was before. But that's something that would probably need to be done periodically, just because this cardigan is very, very heavy. I don't know. I doubt y'all can tell, but this is quite a bit of fabric. This is like 3,000 yards of DK weight yarn. So it's pretty heavy. It's basically a blanket with sleeves. So just like naturally wearing the cardigan, like having gravity pull down on it is constantly going to stretch the cardigan out. And so if I want to keep the cardigan at a certain length, I'm really going to have to put it in the dryer a lot, which I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like that's going to cause some like wear and tear on this before it's time, because you can already kind of see how, actually, I don't know if y'all can see. It's not really showing up too well on camera, but it's already kind of starting to get like fuzzy or like starting to peel a little bit. It still looks great. It still works great, but I don't know how I feel about putting it in the dryer every single time I want to like shrink it back up. So we'll see how that goes. But either way, I still love wearing it, and it was quite a bit of fun to make. Yeah, Ace was suggesting that, and I was like clenching on your behalf. Like I believed them, but I'm still a paranoid inch. Yes, I was very, very hesitant to put it in the dryer. And so what I did is I actually tested my gauge swatch. I put my gauge swatch in the dryer because I still had it around, just to see like what it would do to the fabric. And since it turned out okay, I was like, okay, I guess I'll put this in the dryer. But I had it on like the lowest possible setting. So very gentle, like don't go putting it on like permanent press or anything, because I don't think that would end well. But yeah, I was very nervous, but thankfully it worked out okay. So that was good. Oh, that's smart. The benefits of not frogging a gauge swatch. LOL. Yeah. I usually do frog my gauge swatches, but since it was a pattern test, I kind of wanted to keep it around a little bit, which turned out to be an okay thing. And like if I hadn't had the gauge swatch, I had quite a bit of yarn left over, because the designer kind of like overestimated the yardage so that we wouldn't run out of yarn during the test. So I had a little bit of yarn left over. I could have easily just like made another quick swatch to test. But yeah, I was definitely glad that I had the gauge swatch around to be able to test it. All right. So the reason why at the beginning I was like, I have 3 finished objects, but like technically 4, is because I have this next project is like a set. And so I have like 2 of this set completed, but I'm hoping to meet 2 more. So like those are technically finished objects on their own, but like the full set isn't completed yet. So my next WIP/finished object are the Brick Road Coasters by Nomad Stitches. So this is actually the exact same yarns that I used for my Africa pot holder. The cream is the Lion Brand Comfy Cotton, and the gray is We Crochet Comfy Worsted. And these are mosaic crochet coasters. So If you were watching my Instagram lives this week, if you're not aware, I'm kind of doing some weeknight crochet with me Instagram lives. So my Instagram is linked in the description. But anyway, this is what I've been working on this week. And I actually tried to learn mosaic crochet like while I was doing the live. And I was struggling a little bit, but we persevered. So this is the first one that I made. I used a 4.5 millimeter hook, and the dimensions of the coaster are about 5 inches by 5 inches. It's supposed to be 4 inches by 4 inches, but like I didn't check my gauge or anything because I was like, it's a coaster, it doesn't matter. But another reason why checking your gauge is important is because you kind of want to make sure you're getting like the same, I guess, type of fabric. So for a coaster, you generally, my personal opinion, you want something that's a little bit denser so that it's actually like functioning as a coaster. And as you can see, this is like, it's a pretty solid fabric because that's just kind of like the nature of mosaic crochet, but it definitely has a lot of drape. If you're kind of like holding it up to the light, you can tell that it's not like super dense. So this kind of just ended up being my practice coaster. I'm going to keep it for myself because I don't really care. But these coasters are going to be a gift. So my mom's birthday is today, and my birthday gift to her that's going to be very late is kind of like a loose leaf tea starter kit. So like I've ordered her some tea from like my favorite shop, and I'm going to give her a couple of these coasters and some tea infusers. So it's not the coasters that are making the gift late, it's the tea. But yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that the coasters that I gave to her were quality. So I redid one. This is with a 3.5 millimeter hook. And you can definitely tell the difference, like in size and density. And another difference between these two is that I switched the colors. So for the original coaster I made, I used the gray as color A and the cream as color B. Why am I holding it all the way up there? I used the gray as color A and the cream as color B. And on this one, I used the cream as color A and the gray as color B. And I think I prefer having like the darker color as color B a little bit more because it's kind of serving as like the outlines for the bricks. So I really like how this one turned out. The fabric is a lot denser. So I think that this is more functional as a coaster, and the dimensions are a lot closer to what they're supposed to be. I think this is 4.25 inch by 4.25 inch, so pretty close to the 4 inches by 4 inches that's called out in the pattern. So this is going to be one of the ones that I gift to my mom, and then I'm going to make another one to match it, and then I'm going to make one more for myself, and then we will be done with the coasters. And the cool thing about this pattern is that it also has instructions for a tea towel, and it's really cute because it has like the same kind of like mosaic crochet motif on either end of the towel. And then there's like a pretty nice textured stitch, I don't know what it's called, in the middle of the towel. And then there's some fringe. So it's really cute. So I'm hoping to make that tea towel at some point in the future. I just don't know when. But yeah, these are the Brick Road coasters. And mosaic crochet is a lot of fun. It's a little challenging at the beginning, especially like if you're distracted and you're like talking to people the way that I was when I was trying to learn it. So my suggestion would be to like, if you're wanting to learn how to mosaic crochet, and I guess any new skill really, kind of just make sure that you have some time set aside to really focus on it, because it's not hard once you get the hang of it. It's just a matter of getting the hang of it. But yeah, I really like mosaic crochet as overall as a technique. I think it's one of those things that looks more difficult than it actually is. So, and these coasters worked up very quickly. So they're definitely like a good like starter project if you're not wanting to like completely like dive in on the deep end for like a garment or something. Excuse me. You can just do these coasters. So yeah, really like how they turned out. All right, next project. The temperature blanket. Okay, so I'm really gonna go into detail on the temperature blanket. So first, let me show y'all what I have so far. For the first time ever, I am completely caught up on the temperature blanket. This square is the last one I joined. It is January 29th. Today is January 30th. And I can't make January 30th square yet because we haven't hit our high temperature yet, I think. So yeah, this is how it looks so far. It's about 5 feet wide, 62, 63 inches wide. And I really can't get the entire thing in frame, it looks like, but hopefully you get the gist. So we're going to talk about all the details, all the yarn that I'm using, etc. So I guess I'll start with the colors that I'm using. I have them all over here. I seriously doubt that I'm going to be able to hold them all up at the same time just because there's so many. We might try. I'm not sure how willing I am to embarrass myself today. Let's see. I think that's all of them. Yes. Alrighty, so I have 9 different temperature ranges, and I made these temperature ranges based on my historical weather data in Houston. So as I've said many times before, Houston has very mild winters, and so my temperature ranges are definitely different from somebody who lives in a place where there are actually seasons besides summer and diet summer. So the bottom of my range is 39 degrees Fahrenheit and below, and that is represented by this color called mulberry. And by the way, I'm using a combination of Knit Picks or We Crochet Bravo worsted, which is 100% acrylic, and Wool of the Andes, which is 100% superwash merino. And the reason why I did that is because there were a couple of colorways in Bravo worsted that I really wanted to use that were out of stock. And so I supplemented them with the Wool of the Andes because I was completely sold on those colorways and I did not want to change my colorways to stuff that was actually in stock. So that's the story behind that. I am mixing fibers and so far so good. They're both worsted weight yarns. And so that's helpful, but you can tell that the gauge is a little bit different. Let me see if I can find an example. So let me see if I can find one on this end so it's a little easier to hold up. Nope, okay. So you can see this square is using the Wool of the Andes in the center and then the Bravo worsted for the other 2 rounds. And you can't really tell. I don't think y'all would have known that if I hadn't told you that. So it's working out really well. So yeah, mulberry and Bravo worsted is my 39 degree and below color. Next color, which is the Wool of the Andes, is Solstice Heather. And that is my 40 to 49 degree Fahrenheit color. Next is Hunter, which is 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is Dublin, which is 60 to 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, we're going to put that over there. Already running out of space. It's a lot of different colors. Next is Caution, which is 70 to 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is Brindle, which is 75 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is Persimmon, which is 80 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Next is Paprika, which is 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the last one is Hollyberry. This is also Wool of the Andes color, and that is 96 degrees Fahrenheit and above. Okay, I'm going to try to hold all of these up. I'm going to try. This is a lot of yarn, but I think I can make it work. And I'm going to try to get them in somewhat order so you can see. Okay, I'm already regretting this. Already regretting this. No, my yarn babies are just falling out. Alrighty. So we're so close to getting this to work, y'all. We're so close. You can kind of see on the bottom of the screen. It just doesn't help that they're all different sizes. Okay, so that is the color palette. My Dublin's kind of hiding out there. There we go. There we go. So that's color palette. It's definitely kind of inspired by a rainbow, but I didn't want to do like, you know, true red, true orange, true yellow, true green. I kind of wanted it to fit with my aesthetic, which definitely kind of leans towards like darker colors and like jewel tones and stuff. So that's definitely kind of like what this was inspired by. So it's definitely like a darker rainbow, but it still makes sense that like you kind of have your cooler colors, like your blues and your purples and your greens representing the cooler colors. And then you have your warmer tones, like your reds and your yellows and your oranges representing the warmer temperatures. So it's very intuitive. Let's see, I'm behind on chat here. Oh, smart. You're doing join as you go. Yeah, so I try my best to join the square to the blanket as soon as I have it completed. A, because I'm just really excited to see like how each square is going to look like next to the ones around it. And B, like can you imagine putting together, so this blanket is actually 378 squares because we have one for each of the 365 days. And then we have 12 month blocker squares, like this one, just like a plain cream square that represents the beginning of the month. And then just to even it out, we had to add another one of those plain cream squares at the end. So can you imagine seaming together 378 squares at the end of the year? It was not going to happen. We are definitely doing join as we go. I mean, I guess it's technically not like the official join as you go method because I know that's a method. I'm just doing like some slip stitch seaming on the back, in the back loop only. And so far it's working out pretty well. Oh, I like the hue of paprika. Yeah, this color is gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. And honestly, can we talk about this color combo? Brindle, persimmon, and paprika. Y'all, that is gorgeous. You know, I definitely tend to prefer like the cooler tones, but this kind of like warm situation we've got going on is absolutely stunning. I love it. Like when I first got the yarns in the mail and I like laid them out next to each other, these three next to each other like immediately caught my eye. Just so gorgeous. So gorgeous. So a couple more yarns that I need to go through. As I said, I'm using cream for the kind of plain month blocker squares, and I'm also using it to like seam the squares together. So it's really kind of like the neutral that's holding the blanket together. And it also indicates a day where there is no precipitation. So if the square has a cream border around it, that means that there was no precipitation and it wasn't a special occasion. If it has, let me see if I can find it. Gosh, this is like hard to maneuver, but if it has a gray or like a silver border around it, like this one does, that indicates that it rained that day. And then if it has, let me see if I can find an example. Like this one is kind of split between, I can tell that it's hard to see on camera, but you can see that half of this third round is cream and half of it is this light blue called clarity. That indicates that it's a special occasion. So this square is a special occasion because it was January 1st, so New Year's. And then I think that I marked, yeah, this was January 20th. Which was Inauguration Day. So I marked that as a special occasion. And then today, January 30th, is also a special occasion because it's my mom's birthday. So that is what this color indicates, special occasions. Much like Kat's yarn comes in all shapes and sizes. Yeah. We're definitely like in varying degrees here. I know that this hunter color is in a cake because the original skein that I bought was 500 grams, whereas the rest of these are 100 grams. And I found that working directly from the 500 gram skein was a little bit too difficult. So I'm split it into 100 gram cakes to make it a little bit easier to work with. And then of course the Wool of the Andes colors are 50 gram skeins instead of 100 grams. And so that's why they're smaller. And then some of these are just getting smaller from use. Like I'm probably using the cream yarn the most, and so that's why this one's so small. Mulberry is something that I had left over from a previous project, so that's why it's kind of small. I've been using Dublin quite a bit. This is the 60-degree color. So yeah, it's kind of hard trying to hold up all of those different colors. I'd lose my mind if I had to seam together 378 squares. Yep, same. That is why I'm doing it as I go. Oh, I love that as a fade. Yes, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I love it so much. Happy birthday, Drea's mom. Oh, I'm sure she'll appreciate that. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. I'm going to have to give her a call after I get off of here. I'm not sure what her plans are for today. She's usually like a pretty low-key person, but I did go ahead and wish her happy birthday. So good stuff. Okay, what else about the temperature blanket? So as you can see, it's a motif blanket. I'm using a solid granny square pattern that I kind of modified a little bit. So the first 2 rounds are like just regular double crochet like you would do for a solid granny square pattern. And then the 3rd round is single crochet. And I just did that to get the motifs to be the size that I wanted them to be. So the first round is the low temperature, the 2nd round is the high temperature, and the 3rd round indicates if there was precipitation. I'm a stormwater engineer. I should know how to say precipitation. That's pretty bad. So the 3rd round indicates if there was any precipitation and or if there was a special occasion. So it's been a lot of fun seeing like all of like the different squares coming together, all of the different color combinations. And I've actually like seen some really cool color combos from this that I really like. So I really like this color combo, that Solstice Heather, Dublin, and Cream, and the one next to it, Solstice Heather, Brindle, and Cream. This one is kind of unlikely. I usually don't like things like this, but this is Mulberry, Hunter, and Cream. It kind of reminds me of like a sophisticated Barney type vibe. And then this one is probably one of my favorites. Mulberry, Solstice Heather, and Gray. So it did rain that day, and this was the day where like the rest of Texas got snow and Houston just got freezing rain. So that's fine. And then also the one next to it, Mulberry, Solstice Heather, and Cream, I really like. Let's see what else. There are any other fun color combos in here. But yeah, I just really like how all of these colors are working together, and I can't wait to see what it looks like as we go along. You don't need to know how to say precipitation, just manage it. Yes, very true. Very true. Just need to know how to manage it, and I don't really know how to do that, but it's fine. Anyway, what else about the temperature blanket? I have like all of these notes here. I already said that it's going to be 18 squares across and then 21 squares down. So like if you could imagine, this is already like the 18 squares across. You can already tell how long it is. It's over 5 feet long, and then it's going to be even longer in the vertical direction. So this is going to be a pretty decent sized blanket. And I don't have the measurements because these squares are coming out like a little bit larger than I thought they were going to when I was originally doing like my calculations for like the size of the blanket and stuff. And I'm going to be doing a border, and I don't know what the border is. So I don't know what the final measurements of the temperature blanket are going to be yet, but it's going to be pretty big, definitely like a larger throw size. It's going to be a pretty large blanket. So I'm really excited about that. Another thing is I'm using a spreadsheet to track my temperatures. I know a lot of people like to track it on pen and paper. I'm using a spreadsheet, and I've actually used conditional formatting so that when I type the temperature into the cell, it'll change the color that corresponds with the color yarn that I'm supposed to use. And so that definitely kind of saves a lot of mental energy on my end because I don't have to think, oh, like what color am I supposed to use? The spreadsheet tells me. And I'm also keeping track of how how many times I use each color so that if I make future temperature blankets, I kind of have an idea on how I should adjust the temperature ranges so that I get kind of like a even distribution of the colors, because that's what I'm going for. But of course I can't like predict the weather, you know. So so I've already, true to form, I'm already kind of thinking about things that I'd like to you know, change or modify if I was to make another temperature blanket in the future. First thing is that I like using cream as the neutral, but in the future, I'd like to use something a little darker, like a black or a dark gray. And I wanted to use black for this one, but they were out of stock in black. So I just used cream. And I do like how it's turning out, but my only like beef, I guess, is like I was saying earlier, there isn't really like a ton of contrast between the cream and the clarity. Like you can see it pretty well here, but then in actual like contacts with like the rest of the squares, it's like very hard to see the difference between those two colors unless I get like really close. And so I'd like to have a little bit more contrast between those two colors. What else? And then I've also just been kind of thinking of like different ways to kind of like lay out the squares, maybe have 4 rounds and use like a lighter weight yarn so that the motif comes out to be about the same size. What else? So far I'm finding that there's like a lot of like variation with the high temperatures and not so much with the low temperatures, but that's just kind of like Houston weather. We tend to be very like in the winter months, it's fluctuates a lot between like warmer weather and like slightly cooler weather. And so that's kind of like what I'm seeing with like those high temperatures. And then another thing that I've been considering is like I'm tracking the precipitation on here, but something else I've been considering is like tracking like the condition. So like partly cloudy, partly sunny, like that kind of thing. I'm not sure how that would work. I think that would make it like pretty complicated, especially like if I were to have like a different color for each of those, but that's just something that I've been considering. And then another note that I had earlier that I don't think necessarily applies anymore is that I felt like Caution, which is like this bright kind of yellow orange color, kind of stood out compared to everything else. But at the time that I made that note, I only had one square that had Caution in it. Like it was this one, and you can tell that like it definitely stood out between like all of these darker colors. But now that I have like a few more of those Caution squares in here, I think it works just fine. It was just like when I had like that one square, I was like, whoa, like that's really bright. I don't know how I feel about that. But I think that it works a lot better now. Okay, so that is the temperature blanket. In the future, I'm not going to go that far in depth into it, but this is actually the first time that I've been able to speak about the temperature blanket in depth. So I definitely wanted to go ahead and do that. But in the future, we'll just kind of do like updates because I know that that was a lot. So my temperature blanket's a little complicated, but I really like how it's turning out so far. All right, next project is also the beginnings of a temperature blanket. So where do I begin? So I am collaborating with Christina of Inchworm Crafts. She's actually here. I hope she's still here. She's been talking, so I hope she's still here. And how it started is I wanted to, when I was like planning out my original temperature blanket that I just showed y'all, I kind of had the idea to do like a temperature blanket crochet along or make along. But I didn't want to like host it by myself. And it seems like Christina was really interested in temperature blankets. And so I reached out and asked if she wanted to host a crochet along with me. And so we like did some brainstorming, and she had like the genius, like absolutely genius idea to have a temperature blanket that's monthly instead of daily. And you're actually looking at 2 different temperatures. So you're looking at the temperature from like the year that you were born or like some other significant year in your life. And then you're looking at the temperature for the current year. And it's the average of all the temperatures across that month. So, and the purpose of that is to kind of bring some awareness of climate change and how big of an effect that's having on the average temperature just over the course of a few years. So this is January square. Is this facing the right way? I know y'all have a mirror image. So this looks correct to me, but I think this is how it's supposed to look to y'all. So all of the squares are going to have like this kind of like meteorological theme. We wanted to stay away from doing anything that was like too seasonal because folks that live in like the southern hemisphere are on like opposite seasons from us. So like we didn't want to do like a snowman for January. So these are pretty like season neutral, I guess. So we've got the clouds and the sun, and then we have a J to indicate that it is January square. So I am 23 years old. So I was born in 1997. I'm turning 24 this year. And the average temperature for January words are hard. Okay. The average temperature in January 1997 in Houston was 51.88 degrees. So 52 degrees, basically. The average temperature in January 2020 in Houston was 59.54 degrees. So basically 60 degrees. So that is a difference of 7.66 degrees, basically 8 degrees. So the average temperature for January in Houston is basically 8 degrees higher now, or actually last year in 2020, than it was in 1997. The average temperature rose 8 degrees in 23 years. That is nothing. Y'all, I'm a baby. I'm basically a child. And that's how much the temperature rose. Like, it's very interesting. Like, I know we talk a lot about climate change. It's become a political issue, whatever, but like things like this really put the effects in perspective. 23 years, y'all. I'm not that old. I'm not even 30. I'm not even 25. And that's how much the temperature has risen. Like I do have the statistics for the other months. Some of them are a little better. Some of them are worse than this. But what was clear to me is that it really kind of has an effect on the winter months and the spring months. And so I do believe at one point Houston did have seasons, and now we do not because of climate change. So that is what this blanket is supposed to illustrate. Let me catch up on chat since I've been ranting. Oh my gosh, that's so cute and such a creative way to bring awareness to climate change. Y'all have to thank Christina for that. This was her idea. Like, I cannot take credit for this. We are going to alternate designing the squares. So this is Christina's design. I'm going to be designing February, which I should probably get on that. But yeah, this is Christina's brainchild. I cannot stress that enough. So I'm using the same temperature ranges that I'm using for my other temperature blanket. So, you know, this hunter color represents the 50 to 59 degree range, and then Dublin represents the 60 to 69 degree range. And then we decided to use a neutral to outline it because in some cases there might not be a large enough temperature difference where your birth year temperature and your current temperature would actually be different. And so the neutral is to make sure that you're still able to see the picture. So this is how it's looking. So we're going to be officially launching this crochet along very soon, because you kind of have to do this retroactively. You know, you're not going to be able to find January's average for the temperatures until 2 days from now when January's over. But I think that I'm going to make mine using the 2020 data just because since I am like running this and like behind the scenes, I can't necessarily wait for 2021's data to make the square. So I think I'm going to be using 2020's data. And it's going to be hosted over on the Crafting Collective blog. So that's a blog that Christina and Chloe of Libertine Crochet just started. And it's a really cool, like, collaborative community thing where, like, they actually seek out ideas, like blog post ideas from, like, guest contributors. So, like, they're not the only ones writing on it. So we're going to be hosting the Make on That blog. That's, like, where the patterns are going to be posted. It's going to be free. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how the blanket turns out completely. And we're actually Christina and I are actually going to be going live on Instagram to talk about this more on, what day did we say? We said Wednesday. That would be the 3rd. We're going to be going live to talk about this on Wednesday, February 3rd at 8:30 Central Standard Time. So you can hear more about, like, the Crafting Collective and kind of, like, our inspiration behind this, because I'm sure Christina's perspective is a little different than mine on this, but I just did my little rant about that. And I believe Christina lives further north than I did. And so her temperature differences are actually greater than mine are, because since I live so close to the coast, I don't know anything about meteorology, but living closer to the coast and, like, living further south kind of offsets some of those temperature differences. So Christina has larger temperature differences than I do, but mine are still pretty significant. And we're both, like, in our mid-20s, and it's very scary to see how much things have changed in a quarter of a century. It's a very sobering thought. So I hope that this crochet along will be a good way to spread awareness about that, and you'll get a cute blanket at the end of it. I really love how this square turned out. Like, it was so much fun to work up. This is a tapestry crochet pattern, so we'll have a chart and the written instructions for it. And I still need to block mine. You can tell it's, like, a little bit on the stiffer side, but I think a good steam block will help with that. And yeah, I think it's going to look amazing with everything else. So yeah, definitely be sure to catch that live on Wednesday to hear more about it. And make sure you're following, like, my Instagram account. Christina's Instagram account is, I'm just going to put it in the chat. Actually, Christina, you can put your Instagram in the chat. And then also the Crafting Collective Instagram account as well. To keep up with the happenings on that. We're going to release one square every month. So we're going to be releasing January square here shortly, since January is almost over. And then the February square will be released in March. And then, like, March's square will be released in April, and so on and so forth until we have our complete blanket. So yeah, Christina's putting those accounts in the chat, so definitely be sure to follow them. It's occurring to me that if you're watching this later, you might not be able to see the chat. So I will make sure to put all of those links in the description. I think I have the Crafting Collective blog linked in the description already, but I need to link the social media handles as well. So yeah, really love how this turned out. And I really hope that y'all will participate. I hope this is something you're interested in. I think this is a little bit more manageable than doing a daily temperature blanket like I'm doing, because it's just 12 squares instead of 365 squares. So I hope that's a little bit manageable and it's more meaningful as well. Let's see. I missed some stuff. Thanks. I'm so happy I get to work with Dre on something like this. No, you're who got me into it, so I only deserve like 20% of the credit. Okay, but like this idea though, like this is your vision. Like I would have never come up with something like this. Real talk. Like I'm not that creative. So it's definitely like a craftivism vibe and I love it. As soon as you told me about it, I was like, yes, we need to do that. So you're selling yourself short. You're selling yourself short. Yeah, definitely be sure that you submit a story to the Crafting Collective blog if you have something that you'd like to write. Well, then you're both amazing. Thank you so much, Kelsey. You're so sweet. We literally only reject creeps. And then for other context, Christina is an environmental science and policy grad student too. So yeah, she knows things that I do not know. as far as my background, I'm a civil stormwater engineer. And so I know that like hurricanes and like natural disasters in general are becoming more frequent and more serious due to climate change. Like here in Houston, since 2017, we've been talking a lot about Hurricane Harvey, and that's really kind of like influenced a lot of the work that I do, because now we're trying to like retrofit everything and design for Hurricane Harvey, which, you know, just shouldn't have happened to begin with, in my opinion. 50 inches of rain is how much the Houston area usually gets in a year. That's how much we got in 4 days. I don't know how people can look at that and deny climate change. I'm just saying. Y'all know I usually try to keep things nice and light on my videos, but I mean, this is serious. This isn't really something that we can just gloss over. So those are the perspectives that we're bringing to this. You can see chat when watching later, but it's more of a choice. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh yeah, my ADHD was not about to do daily stuff. Routine is hard enough for me. Yeah, it definitely is a little bit challenging to keep up with a daily temperature blanket. Like I said, I just caught up. And I'm sure this won't be the last time that I fall behind. So hopefully a monthly temperature blanket is a little bit easier to keep up with. This works up fairly quickly. I know this took me a little bit longer to make than I thought it was going to, but that's kind of just, there's a number of factors that go into that. It wasn't like the fault with the pattern or anything. I kind of had like some motivation stuff. Y'all know tapestry crochet kind of requires you to keep like a tighter gauge. And so it does tend to be a little hard on the hands. And I know Christina has a hand injury. So it was slow going for that reasons, but I think it's perfectly reasonable to be able to finish one of these within a month. So we were brainstorming together. Okay, that's true. I will admit that I contributed, but the base idea was yours. Color work takes a lot of brain space too. Yes. And I definitely ended up having to frog it a couple of times just because I am very bad at reading charts. I'm trying to get better at it, but when it comes to color work, I strongly prefer reading the written instructions. And at some point there was like something off with the written instructions. And so I was trying to read the chart, but then I misread the chart. So then I had to start over. And so that is another thing that slowed me down. So if you're a little bit more chart literate than I am, you should be able to like fly through this for sure. It's less laid back, which is kind of cool for this, in my opinion, because it's more meditative. Yeah, definitely. Color work definitely isn't something that you can kind of like zone out doing. You do kind of have to pay attention a little bit. And so that kind of makes the process of creating these squares a little bit more mindful. Think about how much the climate is changing. Anyway. So yeah, that is January Square. I hope that y'all will join us for that live on Wednesday. Keep up with the Crafting Collective blog. Submit any ideas if you have them. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing how everybody's looks. If y'all have like any questions, I know like part of like the daunting thing with temperature blankets can be like trying to figure out like what temperature ranges you need to use, or where to get your data, things like that. Definitely like reach out to me for sure. I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out for like my own temperature blanket, so I can like kind of get you going in the right direction a little bit if you'd like. Okay. Wow, we are already an hour in and I still have 1, 2, 3 more projects to talk about. All right, let's go. So my next project is something, we're kind of like in the old whips section now. So things that have been just lingering since 2020 that I'm hoping to finish up soon. And this is very tangled. I don't know what to do about this. Oh dear. Please hold. I just have, for context, I have all of my projects for the podcast in a bag and I just like reach into the bag and pull things out, which is great. But then sometimes things get tangled, which, you know, makes sense with all these like ends hanging out. And so that is what has happened here. And I don't know how to fix this. Please hold. This is really bad. Okay, I think I have this untangled enough for me to be able to show you. So that is in the frame. I don't like that. So this is the Soundwave shawl by Stephanie Aaron. The main color that I'm using is Leroo Cotton Tinsel Fingering in the colorway After the Rain. And then mohair stripes are in Sorella Yarn Mohair and Voyager. So yeah, this is a massive shawl. It's huge. And I'm currently on row 38 out of 44. So I only have like 6 rows left, but like each row is just so long. It's so long. And like both of these fibers are pretty slippery. So I'm not able to crochet at the pace that I'm used to. So it just seems like it's taking forever, but I'm really excited to have this one finished. I like large shawls. I like fingering weight shawls. And so it takes off all of those boxes and I just need to finish it. So I'm more showing this to y'all out of like accountability that hopefully we'll have it done soon. But yeah, I really like how it's turning out. It's just a matter of like getting it done for sure. Next project is the Traveling Knit Afghan, which is where all of these yarn ends were coming from that were giving me trouble. So let's just give me a second to get organized here. My yarn management skills are not the best, and so that's why we're kind of struggling a little bit over here. It's fine. Making it work. Okay, and then this is the one that I have on the needles right now. Okay, that looks good. Kind of make sure that that doesn't fall off. And 1, 2. Okay, let's put that one on top because I need to talk about that one. Okay. All right, I think we're good now. Sorry about that. So yeah, Traveling Knit Afghan. It's actually a make-along from last year, 2020. I just kind of had a late start to it, so I'm like nowhere near done yet, but I'm still working on it. So basically the premise behind the Traveling Knit Afghan, there's a crochet version as well, is that every 2 weeks, the blanket would get sent to a different designer. They would design a square attached to the blanket and then send it off to the next designer, and it would just go on like that, and they would publish the patterns for free on their blogs. So I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 squares completed. Here they are. I've talked about these all before in previous podcast episodes, so I'll spare you. And I left like these really long tails so that I could use them to seam the squares together. So 7 squares completed. I'm really hoping to block them as I go along because I learned from a previous blanket that I made that I don't have the space or materials to block 24 squares at once. So I'm really hoping to get those blocked soon. And then the square that I'm currently working on is square number, okay, I'm skipping ahead. So this is a square that I've finished since the last time I talked about this project. This is square number 4, designed by Knit Brooks, and it's actually worked like corner to corner on a bias, and so that makes it really interesting and really fun. So this one was a lot of fun to work up. It worked up pretty quickly. So I really liked how this one turned out. And then the square that I'm working on right now is square number 10 by Whistle and Wool. I'm only a couple rows into it, so can't really see too much of the texture just yet, but that one's coming along pretty well. And I did skip a few squares. I skipped square number 3 by the Queen Stitch because I was using this yarn actually, and I found that the yarn kept splitting. This is like a very, very inexpensive acrylic yarn. I have no idea what brand it is. It was kind of offloaded on me as a gift, and it is so inexpensive that you can actually like, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but in person you can actually kind of like see some like legit plastic kind of like coming out of it, because acrylic is basically plastic, but most well-made acrylics you can't tell that they're plastic. This you can tell it's plastic. So it's a very cheap yarn, and it kept splitting for some reason. So I decided to use that yarn for this square by Knit Brooks, and it worked out better for some reason. So I skipped that one. I also skipped square number 5 by All About Ami. I was originally using this navy yarn, and I just found that that like stitch pattern didn't really show up that well with the navy yarn. And then I skipped square number 6 by Knititude because that pattern involved working into stitches on previous rows, and I just wasn't prepared to do that. I was not about to do that. And then I also skipped square number 9 by Designs by Vanessa because it used a technique called pass slip stitch over, which probably isn't that difficult, but like I just wasn't in a headspace to like try to learn something new. So I just went ahead and skipped that one. So yeah, we're working on square number 10 by Whistle and Wool right now. So far, so good. So I'm hoping to have that one done soon. And then the next square that I'm going to work on is number 11 by Gorilla Knits. Okay, one more project. This is the Lattice Lace Dress by Stephanie Aaron. The yarn that I'm using is Lion Brand Kobu in silver. And this is the last time you're going to see this because I've actually decided to frog it and use it for something else. I'm just not really feeling it anymore. You know, this wasn't really a project that I was working on too often. And I just kind of like, I'm just like not attached to it anymore. So I'm going to use all of that Kobu yarn for something else. So hoping to frog that one soon. Okay, so that was our last project. So just like some announcements here at the end. So if you don't know, I've started doing crochet with me's over on Instagram on weeknights. And so the days that I'm planning on doing them are Monday the 1st and Friday the 5th for sure. And then I could possibly also squeeze in Tuesday the 2nd and Thursday the 4th, depending on how things go. So those are on my Instagram, which is linked in the description below. And those usually start around 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's not right on the dot, but it's pretty close. Like I said earlier, Christina and I are going to be going live on Wednesday, February 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about the rising temperatures crochet along. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Hope y'all join us for that. And then Saturday, February 6th, I'm going to be doing a crochet with me here on YouTube because I know a lot of folks don't have Instagram. So I want to make sure that I'm doing some over here as well. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel because we will be having a giveaway at 100 subscribers. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun. As always, if you join me live, thank you so much. And if you're watching this later, thank you to you too. And I hope to see you either on like some of my Instagram lives during the week or back here Saturday for a crochet with me. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.